Anyway, coming up next, you'd be mistaken in thinking that you're still listening to Bernie Keefe's Rock and Roll Heaven, because a very different track came into the uploader this week, and it's by an artist called Foreign Age, and he is a producer from Kettering. He basically takes his inspiration from modern old school sound references like the Beatles, a bit of 90s alt rock in there from Radiohead, a bit of noughties lo-fi hip hop from Jay Dilla, that kind of stuff. And this upload just completely threw me off, but in a really good way, because we don't get stuff like this uploaded that often. So this track is really, really special. He's got his brand new album coming out on the 28th of May, and I'm really, really looking forward to listening to it. Anyway, enjoy this track. It's called La La La. It's by Foreign Age.
You are the Beatles I needed. I got the Stones I deserved. I was a fridge rat to your love. Inside a world that's not enough. Dreaming of infinity, like the teenager I was. Singing la 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 la, it's okay. You want Harry 61, you want DJ Way. I guess it's only rock and roll. Singing la 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 la, it's okay. You want Harry 61, you want DJ Way. I guess it's only rock and roll. Only rock and Sex and pop songs make you feel like love is leaving you behind. Starting war and peace of mind. How do you rebel against irony? How do you replace it with sincerity? Life urging gets flooded by life. La la la, it's okay. Not the aquaphobia, the dreams are running away. La la la, it's okay. The satanic request of next back with away. La la la, it's okay. I'm the devil referee, it's on my head every day. Every day. La la la, it's okay. Keep yourself alive, do it anyway. La la, it's
I told you! Experimental 60s sound there from Foreign Age, playing on BBC, introducing in Northampton. I really enjoyed that, I've got to be honest. Now, moving on, because Saturday night just got extremely exciting. So, Foreign Age, I played his track last week. It was his first release. It was called La La La, It's Okay. And you might remember it as the track that kind of sounded like a one-man Beatles with a chameleonic musical identity. And I'm really starting to think that's true about him, because last week he delivered us this 60s experimental spectacular, and he's back once again with a new one this week. It's a little bit heavier this time, but this song is all about the importance of not feeling too sorry for yourself. It's called Youthanasia Boy, and it's by Foreign Age.
spits you right out, and then you want to jump right back in. Please stop playing the victim for entitlement, 'cause that's not the easy way out. Politics and the news give you conspiracy blues. You say we just want to lose, and it's the chosen who choose. And then you hate to know, 'cause happiness ain't enough unless it's filled up with pain, and then you're happy again. But this is life, it spits you right out, and then you want to jump right back in. Please stop playing the victim for entitlement, 'cause that's not the easy way out. Everything is on OTT. I'm running a seed in a digital city. Decorate sign with an empty light. Everything is on OTT. No wonder they just want to hide. This is a 21st century boy. But this is life, it spits you right out, and then you want to jump right back in. Please stop playing the victim for entitlement, 'cause that's not the easy way out. That's not the easy way.
I'm really intrigued about this artist. He's dropping an album on May the 28th called Understanding Animals, and judging by the songs he sent into the uploader, it's going to be one to watch. Youthanasia Boy by Foreign Age. We've also been playing tracks from an artist called Foreign Age recently. He's from Kettering, and over the past few weeks he's been sending in some absolute crackers. Anyway, his album is actually coming out at the end of this week, the 28th of May, so he's coming in for a chat and a bit of a preview. Coming up next, Foreign Age is on the show. Here's one of my favourite tracks of his. It's called Youthanasia Boy. 33, Sean Grant and the Wolfgang. And coming up next, Foreign Age is on the show. Here's one of my favourite tracks of his. It's called Youthanasia Boy. Enjoy this one.
A euthanasia boy, he thinks that life is a toy. He thinks it makes him a man, it only makes him a boy. When all his life runs out and daddy's car goes blank, and you get kicked out the house, you say there's no turning back. But this is life, it spits you right out, and then you want to jump right back in. Please stop playing the victim.
Youthanasia Boy playing on BBC Introducing in Northampton, and Max Sullivan is a singer, songwriter, producer and multi-instrumentalist from Kettering who's been sending in quite a few uploads to us recently. His tunes kind of sound like a 2021 experimental version of the Beatles, but with a very, very current twist. His lyrics are also super relatable to how modern society is or has been during the last 18 months, and being a millennial myself, I wanted to find out what makes him tick. So he's on the phone with me right now. Hello, Max.
Hello.
You play loads of instruments, don't you? So how did you become a one-man Beatles, basically?
Well, I started on drums and then I wanted to write songs, so I learned guitar. A friend of mine showed me how to play a power chord, and then I just played, Green Day and Nirvana and all that sort of, really easy stuff on guitar. And then it sort of led to, once you learn guitar, you can sort of play bass and you can play a few sort of chords on the piano. I'm nothing special. And then I just sort of got really obsessed with like messing around with 4-track recorders and multi-tracking all the parts. And I really love sort of like one-man bands like Kevin Parker from Tame Impala, Mac DeMarco. Paul McCartney used to do it as well for his solo albums. Dave Grohl did it for his first Foo Fighters album. So I was really I really fancied doing something like that. And also, it's always hard when you're in a band because you don't want to be, telling everybody what parts to play. So I just thought it was just easier for to do it myself, sort of thing. So yeah, that's basically how it sort of came about. Also,
I noticed that you've got quite a few credits as well, pre-Foreign Age, as a producer of quite a few other artists in the scene. Tell me all about that as well, because I find that super interesting about you.
I did some bits with Miyagi Kawash, which is sort of like, it was a bit of another solo sort of project, and that was sort of the pseudonym for it. And I started doing, I had this idea to do like a lo-fi masterpiece and basically record a whole album using like a laptop mic. And then I've started working with other sort of bands. So I was playing in a band called the Abrahams, and they're sort of fairly big sort of locally, sort of Kettering, Northamptonshire area. And also done some work with Kenneth J. Nash. We've actually recorded an album which will be coming out this year, I think. It's called The Explorer, and it's kind of like a spaghetti western 60s soul album. It's quite cool. I've used it as a sort of chance to practice my production skills, because I'm a total amateur really, but I've just sort of been so obsessed with it. I've just tried to self-teach myself by doing it, if you know what I mean. So sort of proper DIY sort of attack on like learning, basically.
So let's talk about Foreign Age. It was a project for you that came about last year, am I right in saying 2020? Tell me more about it.
Yeah, so I had a load of songs written, and obviously we had the pandemic hit, and it basically sort of propelled me to do something about. I had all these songs in the can, but I hadn't got them recorded. I became really aware of my own sort of like mortality, and I need to get these recorded just in case the worst happens. So I basically just recorded them all in my bedroom, everything I had, all the instruments, and I was hashing out sort of a song every sort of couple of days. Really, really driven. And then I sort of formed the Foreign Age name as like a pseudonym to put music behind that I could gig later on, form a band so I could go out and play them live. So that's the plan anyway in the future. I like the Tame Impala thing. It's like Kevin Parker writes and records and produces the stuff, but then he's got an actual band that go out and play, Glastonbury and the rest of it. So I like that idea. So that was the reason for calling it Foreign Age rather than like a solo me sort of thing,
Also, you write in your songs quite a lot about social issues and things like that. Where does your main inspo come from, basically? I know society obviously is a massive thing for you.
There's something we can't quite put our finger on. There's some sort of dissatisfaction associated, I think, with doing like your 9-to-5 job. We're so like addicted to social media at the minute, and we just seem to become more and more detached from each other. I mean, social media was supposed to be like an added bonus to being to a social life, and now it's become our social life. And I think there's something wrong with that. I think it's a brilliant tool, but not to consume for your whole, your entire day. So I was quite inspired by this feeling that like we're not quite living correctly, I don't think. So I wanted to do like an album about that and sort of a hyper-realist satire of it, if you know what I mean, so that we can sort of look at it and go, oh, that's really funny that we do. Why do we live like that,
Totally agree with you. There is that kind of feeling among millennials, especially, of like glorifying working like a ridiculous number of hours or not having a satisfactory work-life balance or whatever, isn't there? It's just such a common theme, or that social media and your following and the impressions or likes likes that you get just has an impression on how important you are in society.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? That's like there's social proof, and it's become like a pressure within your like normal life. And I think a lot of the older generation just don't. I think it's ridiculous because it is. We're clicking and liking and sharing, and not, there's no substance underneath it sometimes.
Your next track tonight that we're going to play is Apathy by Proxy. It has a bit more of a like dreamland feel about it, and it feels a bit softer than some of the other tracks that you've got on Understanding Animals, which is your album. Tell me a bit about the sound engineering of that.
It was inspired quite a lot by sort of like the 90s golden age hip hop. The drums are sampled from George Clinton's "I Didn't Come Rhythm," and I basically, like you said, it was the intention was to make it sort of woozy, dreamy, like, and the idea was so Apathy by Proxy is basically it's another in joke of a title, but it's by proxy is like someone does something on your behalf. So if someone's being apathetic for you on your behalf is like the ultimate apathetic condition, if you know what I mean. To give the idea of someone sort of sat like a slob in a sofa, just sort of letting the world sort of go by them, So it's a bit of a satire of, or kind of like people in lockdown sort of clicking, on the internet or whatever. So
all right, so we're going to play it now. So do you want to introduce the track?
This song's called Apathy by Proxy by Foreign Age.
Shooting this immigrant, waiting for a reason to leave us. My imprisonment, premature millionaires who monetize your fears. And Jesus and the dinosaurs are fundamentalists. No checkers in love who found themselves a better drug. All the digital nomads running out of trees to hug. This type of millennial despair needs a weekend away. I know this place called nowhere. The happy pills you take to make you happy and never make you happy enough to stop taking the pills. Funny that, like the mates do that. Mr. Tinfoil Hat, can you please not come back? We'll make a family, a boy or a girl, or both or neither, as long as we're ticking the boxes of the modern life. Apathy by proxy. No, we don't ever talk about the big why. Sit back and relax and watch the world go by. Apathy by proxy. No, we don't ever talk about the big why. Sit back and relax and watch the world go by. I feel like I'm dreaming, I'm about to wake up, then I'ma drink this pill to spill when no one's cleaning it up. Why don't we piggyback opinions till the piggy is dead, and then rename it now? It's just a bacon sandwich with legs back then. I could hear the smile in your voice, but now it sounds as if you picked the wrong choice. I thought once you let the drowning cat out of the bag, I wouldn't want to come back and zip up the bag. Our hearts are drunk of blood and our egos have landed. We feel the lives of meaning, now we're all breathing addicts. Entertained, opinionated, all the above, when all we ever really needed was somebody to love. And now we slap ourselves to heaven. When you get there, when you get there, when you get there, there'll be no one there. Apathy by proxy. No, we don't ever talk about the big why. Sit back and relax and watch the world go by. Apathy by proxy. No, we don't ever talk about the big why. Sit back and relax and watch the world go by. Apathy by proxy. No, we don't ever talk about the big why. Sit back and relax and watch the world go by. Apathy by proxy. No, we don't ever talk about the big why. Sit back and relax and watch the world go by. Apathy. I'm onto something, but I don't know what I'm onto. I'm onto something, but I don't know what I'm onto. I'm onto something, but I don't know what I'm onto. I'm onto something, but I don't know what I'm onto. I'm onto something, but I don't know what I'm onto.
You've just heard Apathy by Proxy. It's the second of tonight's songs by Foreign Age, and one-man band Max Sullivan from Kettering is on the phone with me right now. So, Max, your new album is out on May the 28th. Tell me all about it.
So the album's called Understand Animals. It's got 14 tracks. It's more sort of thematically conceptual, and it's basically the album designed to play as like an infinite loop. So the last song syncs into the first song, and the idea behind that was like the cycle of life. So I got thinking about with the COVID business, I got thinking about life and death as you do, and I thought when you die, your body turns into dust, and then animals and insects eat that dust or as nutrients, or the plants and trees, blah blah blah, and that becomes something else and becomes something else, and technically we are worm, so it sort of goes round in a cycle. So the album sort of starts with sort of a birth, if you will, and ends with like the death, so it sort of goes round in a circle. The album's like 40 minutes long. It's a good slab of music, and it sort of lives in its own universe, which some of my favourite albums do, like Yankee Hotel Foxtrot by Wilco and OK Computer by Radiohead. They sort of live in their own sort of universe. So that was the intention with the album.
I find that so interesting because 2020 and 21 have given us the most reflection time ever, haven't they, really? It's just been one of those things where when you've got nothing else to do, in your mind, you just sit there and pick apart every aspect of life, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's undoubtedly had an influence on the album, totally. And sort of like the title is a bit of a double play, because it's like, are we animals that are understanding, or are we understanding animals? Because we are essentially, we are animals, and we are sort of living in a world that's maybe a little bit too complex for us, and it's how do we negotiate that? How does that affect how we behave and think and things like that? So that was sort of like the idea behind the sort of like conception of the album.
And when it comes to mixing the album, you're quite the perfectionist, right? So how long did the mixing process take once you'd got the songs down?
I think in total, it probably took about 6 to 8 months to mix it. It gets really surgical because I'm layering so many different things on, so many different harmonies and parts and things. I've got somebody called Pete Mayer to master it. He's had some brilliant credits with artists like Rolling Stones and Jack White, and he did the Peaky Blinders series mastering. And he really knows his stuff, and he's took it up another level. So I'm really glad I got him on board to help me out with that.
The last track that we're going to play of yours tonight is actually from your album. It's the self-titled track, Understanding Animals. The album's out on the 28th of May, right? So where can people find you? How can they get hold of your music?
I'm on Facebook as Foreign Age, on Instagram and Twitter, so at Foreign Age, and you can buy on iTunes or Bandcamp. Just type in Foreign Age and all the music will pop up, and easy as that.
So thanks very much, Max, for chatting to me today. So the very last thing for you to do you want to introduce the last song that we're going to be playing?
Okay, the last song is called Understanding Animals by Foreign Age.
Back to the bread line, back to the Hawthorne, the private safari of beautiful people chasing green paper. Born to be for all, to mainline the main street and be the new normal. Vote to the left or vote to the right. Alarm clocks for lives under fluorescent lights, fed by the hand this hand, it likes the bite. We try our best, but to live out my last days. Utopically regal, a Mobius striptease, where breathing is lethal. Vote to the left or vote to the right. Alarm clocks for lives under fluorescent lights. Fed by the hand, this hand, it likes the bite. We try our best, but we understand it. Animals, we're just animals who want to be somewhat less animalistic. Animals, we're just animals. We're just animals who want to be somewhat less animalistic. Animals, we're just. Menage a trois, menageries, taxidermy, tea parties, subconsciously walking into an elephant's graveyard. We're just animals. We're just animals who want to be somewhat less animalistic. Animals. We're just animals. We're just animals who want to be somewhat less animalistic. Animals. We're just animals. We're just animals who want to be somewhat less animalistic. Animals. We're just animals. We're just animals who want to be somewhat less animalistic. Animals.
Thanks so much to my guest, Foreign Age. His album Understanding Animals is out on Friday the 28th of May.
BBC introducing in Northamptonshire with Kerrie Cosh.
BBC Radio Northampton.